Welcome, everybody. We will call the Monday, March 11th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting to order here at 6:30 p.m. Tonight's meeting is being held in person and on Zoom. The public will be welcome to participate when invited throughout the meeting. Members of the public may attend in person or join online via Zoom. If attendees experience audio troubles, please leave the meeting and then rejoin. All of the instructions on how to participate are posted online at www.burnsvillemn.gov in the public meeting calendar. As usual, we're also available for viewing on BCTV and on the city's website. If you're unable to participate this evening and you'd like to submit public testimony, I encourage you to email your comments to city staff or mail your comments directly to City Hall. You may participate tonight online by joining us on Zoom. That's zoom.us/join. Our meeting ID is 837-0180-5611. Once you're logged into the meeting, please use the chat feature to tell the moderator which item you'd like to speak to. You may also call into the meeting on your phone. The phone number to call in is 651-372-8299. It's the same meeting ID, 837-0180-5611. And for each of the public hearings, we'll open up a time when callers may speak to that item, and we'll give you more instructions at that time. And your call will be muted until you're allowed on by the moderator. We're going to have a moment of silence to honor the fallen police officers, Paul Engstrand, Matthew Rouge, and the firefighter paramedic Adam Finseth. We've really been touched by the outpouring of support and kindness for so many people. We want to thank you all for coming together to support the city of Burnsville and all those who grieve with us. So we'll stand and face the flag for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to our agenda. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the posted agenda from commissioners? Seeing none, are there any changes from city staff? No changes, thank you. So seeing no changes to the agenda, I would love a motion to adopt the agenda. Motion by Commissioner Timmerman, second by Commissioner Braddock. And before I put it to a vote, is one of you able to keep track of this, or?
Yep.
Okay, you're keeping track of it. Okay, yep. Thank you. I appreciate that. So all those in favor of adopting the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been adopted. Our second item is approval of the minutes from our last meeting on February 12th. Are there any changes to the minutes from commissioners? Seeing none, any changes to the minutes from staff?
Nope. No.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner John. Seconded by?
Second.
Thank you. So that all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Our agenda is approved. We'll on to the agenda. Our next item, item number 3, is a public hearing. This is an application of MWF Properties, LLC, for a preliminary and final plat of a 2-lot subdivision of PILLSBURY Ridge, and also a variance to build to their build-to lines floor area ratio and internal lot line easements to construct a new 48-unit apartment building at 180 Pillsbury Avenue South. And Kevin Shea, a planner from Landform, our consulting planner, will be presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Tonight before you have the public hearing for MWF Properties for a 48-unit apartment building. They are requesting preliminary and final plat to create 2 lots as part of a subdivision called PILLSBURY Ridge, with variances for 3 different areas, one being the build-to lines, floor area ratio, and the internal lot line easements for the subdivision. So the site location is 180 Burnsville Parkway West. It is comprised currently of 200 Burnsville Parkway West, which is the Diamond Head Education Center site. The site, once it's split off as a whole, is 1.14 acres. The existing site right now functions as a parking lot, so that's the primary use of the site right now. The zoning is TOD, the Transit Oriented Development District, with a land use to match of the heart of the city. So for the site, it is located on the southeast corner of the existing parcel, abutting Pillsbury Avenue and Burnsville Parkway. So those are the 2 frontages on the east and south lot lines. Former uses being the parking lot. And again, it's a preliminary and final plat with 3 variances requested. To kind of run through the site plan as a whole, so the building is positioned along the eastern lot line and the southern lot line, abutting both Pillsbury and Burnsville Parkway. One of the variance requests I'll go over real quick because it's easy to see on here is the build-to line. So in the southeast corner, you'll note that the road curves is at the intersection of Burnsville Parkway and Pillsbury Avenue. The building, however, does not follow that curve in the roadway and instead runs straight north-south until it hits the southern property line and then runs east-west. So there's a portion that doesn't meet the build-to line in that southeast corner. However, there is a concrete patio shown there that would then tie in with the area and bring it up more to that pedestrian environment. So that's one of the variances requested. As far as the site circulation and functioning of the site, residents would enter from Pillsbury Avenue and then travel into the parking area. You can either get to the underground garage. From that is the first entrance on the left, and then the second one is for the surface parking. It is a 48-unit building, and they do have 48 parking stalls under in the enclosed garage area, and then they do have a 20-stall parking area for surface parking as well. That then would tie in after you go through. There's the access aisle or drive that runs along the north and west sides. That would be the primary function for transportation to get through in site circulation. As far as the other amenities on site, you'll see there are sidewalks connecting into the building and then out to the public right of way as well, along with a surface concrete play area, or not concrete, a surfaced play area in the southwest corner. Those are the main site elements as far as the site plan. For the development summary chart, I included this from the staff report. Just a couple highlights on here. They are meeting the building height, which is 30 feet, and they're at 42.5 for the 4 stories, 1 below grade, 3 above grade. They do meet the impervious surface coverage and green space requirements, along with the green space requirements proposed within the parking lot. They're at 18.9%, well above the 10% requirement. They do meet the perimeter landscaping required with 370 linear feet, which is 55% roughly over the 50% required. And they are meeting the parking requirement with 68 stalls proposed, which is the 48 underground enclosed and the 20 surface parking stalls. To note on that, there is a condition in the resolution, or in the packet as well, to incorporate shared parking into this. So they are meeting it because of the reductions to the TOD standards for parking, where they get a 25% reduction for being in the TOD, and then another 20% for being near a transit hub or a planned transit hub. So with that, they do meet the parking there, but staff is requesting a shared parking agreement with the adjacent school parking areas because of the nature of the uses being at roughly opposite times, minus some maybe school time events that are in the evening, that they could utilize some shared parking there. And then there wouldn't be, if they were underparked, they wouldn't be encouraged to go park across the street at the city ramp. So that is in the staff packet and a condition on the approval. And then the density required is between 20 and 80 units an acre when in this district, and they're at 42, so they're kind of in the middle. As far as the landscape plan, they have concentrated a lot of their smaller landscaping around the building for that building perimeter landscape requirement. And then they have concentrated, you'll notice there's two electric transformers on site. One is just to the west on the northern edge of the building, and then one is just to the west of the southern edge of the building. They've concentrated landscaping around those as well to meet the screening requirements for that mechanical equipment. And then they have proposed a number of trees and evergreens, overstories and evergreens along the western side of the property as well. And they do meet the landscape requirements with this landscape plan. As far as architecture, I just put a couple of the elevations on here because the sides are very similar in nature, including the terms of the materials they're using. So they have brick, kind of the brownish color, mahogany, along with CMU rock face or concrete masonry units, fiber cement panels and fiber cement lap siding, and then asphalt shingles. And so each of the elevations will utilize a combination of those materials to break up the building facade, along with some variations in the depth of the building as well. So as you'll see here too, they do meet on all the frontages. I didn't include the tables on all of these for the imagery, but on all the frontages, they do meet the architecture requirements for percentage of materials being 60% for the primary material, and then up to 30% of the secondary material, and then 10% of accent materials or greater. So they do meet those on all the elevations for each, both exterior and internal facing elevations. So with that, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission recommended the City Council approval of the application of MWF Properties for a variance, preliminary plat, and final plat of Pillsbury Ridge to construct a 48-unit apartment building at 180 Pillsbury Avenue South, subject to the conditions that were in your report. I'll just mention quickly the two other variances which have been kind of standard practice recently on the projects. One is the internal lot lines. When you do a common lot line, we don't necessarily need the same drainage and utility easements we need where they're on the exterior of a plat. So it's been common with recent apartment and common lot line subdivisions to waive that requirement essentially through a variance to not have internal lot line easements for the drainage and utilities within there. And then the other one being for floor area ratio. This site, with the size of building and the number of units and the number of parking stalls required, is pretty much maxed out given its site size. So they are at 1.26 for a floor area ratio instead of the required 1.5. So they got as close as they could, but they couldn't hit the 1.5 without having more parking required, which couldn't really fit on the site given the site circulation. So staff is recommending approval of both those variances as well. So with that, the applicant is present today, and then I can take any questions for staff as well.
Thank you, Mr. Shea, for excellent presentation and a kind of a nice looking project. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Commissioner Anderson.
There's a outline that lays on top of the building on one of the pictures. What's the purpose for that? Is that to delineate zoning?
Which image are you referring to?
If you go to I think one of the first ones. There's a yellow right here.
Oh, the building on the west side was an old remnant from a plat where they did a CIC plat to just incorporate that structure. That's going away with this preliminary and final plat. So the two lots, it's currently 2 lots today, but it'll be a different 2 lots with this subdivision because that was under different ownership back in 1979 when the plat was recorded, and now it's under the common ownership of the school. So they're removing that as part of the plat, and then the new lot created will be over on the southeast corner.
Is the building going to have a flat roof or the
It'll have a pitched roof.
pitched roof?
Yep. Yeah. Looking like that. So the height on here, I took the height off the images, but on this slide on the lower right, you can see that essentially the roof line starts at about 42 feet and then it goes up to a pitched roof. So the middle of the roof line would be a little bit higher than that.
Other questions? Commissioner John.
So on the parking requirements, it's 68 parking stalls. The current proposal has 68 stalls, and the staff is going above and beyond with the 16, or is the 16 included in that 68?
The 16 is not. The 16 is an additional request. That's essentially the difference if they didn't have the TOD reductions.
Okay,
There's been some issues based on the recent parking study the city did on the heart of the city, with some inadequate parking in certain areas. So we're trying to, while not requiring them to overpark their own site, use strategies to have shared parking where parking's not fully utilized. So this was staff's recommendation to essentially, that the 16 stalls will bring it up to what it would be required for a normal multifamily building, not in the TOD. It gets them from it's a 1.75 parking requirement, one enclosed 0.75 surface parking when you're not in the transit-oriented development district. With the reductions, it essentially goes down to 1.415 stalls per unit when you're in the TOD. And so that 16 stalls essentially bridges the gap between the two.
that's what I was hoping to hear. Thank you. Is there any indications on how the school district feels about this? Are they?
So, the applicant may be able to give you a more up-to-date, but the last time I talked with them was right before the packet went out. And they'd already had preliminary conversations with the school district about the shared parking agreement. However, they hadn't had the finite discussions to actually, talk about which specific stalls would be shared.
Sure.
And some of those, more detailed conversations, but they've had broader discussions about it.
Obviously open to it then.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Commissioner Braddock?
Where is snow going to go with the limitation on parking? Sorry.
Yeah, so their current snow storage plan, it's not on the slides, it'll probably be easiest to show on the site plan here. The current snow storage plan would be essentially almost pushing it to the green space that's outside of the drive aisle, so on this image it'd be the west side. Moving it to that open space area because it has a larger area. There could be some smaller snow storage areas on the island that's on the western edge of the surface parking stalls, but most of it would likely get pushed onto the common area between the school and the site.
Any other, go ahead, Commissioner Hamilton.
Just to clarify, the entry point onto the property, once it's complete, is it strictly one in, one out from Pillsbury?
Correct, yep.
It's the same in and out that's there now?
I believe so. I don't know if the access is lined up exactly, but it is essentially the same location as is currently shown. So, there's still the internal access. I mean, so you can still go into the school district site from this property. So there's still the southwest corner, which has access into the school district site. But the access out onto Pillsbury, onto the public right-of-way, would be on Pillsbury, in roughly the same location as shown on where the current parking is.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, we're going to open up the public hearing at 6:48 PM. Is there anybody in the room who'd like to speak to this? Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay. So I understand the applicant is here. You don't have to speak to it. You're welcome to come up and talk if you want, but actually, we might have questions for you outside the public hearing, so seeing no public rushing to speak at the hearing, we'll close the public hearing also at 6:48 and 33 seconds. And we'll move this back to questions. Does anybody have a question for the applicant? Would anybody like to make a motion? While you think about that, I'm just going to kind of point out about this property has build-to requirements where many properties have a setback requirement. And it's, in this case, what I realized in your presentation is that a portion of the building, that kind of southeast corner, isn't close enough to the road which normally a lot of variances are because you're too close to the road or too close to the property line. This piece of property has a requirement that the edge of the building be in a certain place to kind of reinforce that urban fabric. And I think the variances that they're requesting here are totally reasonable. They don't alter the nature of the neighborhood, or the building meets the intent of the zoning rules, and so I'm certainly in favor. So question or motion?
I actually had a question. I was just wondering, we'd asked about the parking arrangements with the school district. Have you guys had updates on the parking arrangements?
Yeah, do you want me to take that?
Yeah, if you can step up to the podium and state your name and address.
Absolutely. So my name is Marty O'Connell. I am a development associate with the developer MWF Properties. Regarding the parking, we are in early discussions with the school district on entering a joint shared use parking agreement. As Kevin had indicated, we have not locked down the details of that shared use parking agreement. We're actually meeting with the school district tomorrow to kind of hash out further details of what that parking agreement might look like. So we think over the next few weeks, we'll have a much better idea of kind of what the terms and conditions of that parking agreement might look like. So we should have further information on that in the coming weeks, and we do understand that it's a condition of approval to have a shared use parking agreement with the school district. The school district's been really favorable with the project and excited to see it, and they've been really easy to work with throughout this process as well. So wouldn't expect issues, but yeah, should have further information on it in the coming weeks, and let me know if you have any further questions.
Good deal, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners?
I was just gonna say this, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is a great project. Really appreciate you guys coming into Burnsville and help bring more families to Burnsville, basically, and good use of the space as well. It was a parking lot that doesn't use this very often, so this will be good. With that, if nobody else has anything, I could be happy to make a motion.
I would love to entertain a motion.
We'd love it. All right. Well, I so move, as soon as I find the motion, that we recommend the City Council approval of the application of MWF Properties for a variance, preliminary plat and final plat of PILLSBURY Ridge to construct a 48-unit apartment building at 180 Pillsbury Avenue South, subject to the 9 conditions listed in our background.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next item number 4. This is a public hearing. This is the application of Ignatius Lee DDS, PA, for a conditional use permit for a medical service or clinic use in the I-3 Office and Industrial Park Zoning District for a new dental clinic at 2105 143rd Street West. Again, presenting planner Kevin Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. So as you said, it's a public hearing for Ignatius Lee DDS, PA, for their conditional use permit to operate a dental clinic in the I-3 district. So the site location is just south of 143rd and Ames Drive. It is 1.59 acres. It is an existing office building. The zoning is I-3 Office and Industrial Park District with a land use to match of industrial office. It has one street frontage, as the Ames Drive is more of a background for it, but 143rd Street West is on the north lot line. It is the primary frontage. The proposal is the CUP to allow a dental clinic. And there are no changes proposed on the site, so all changes are on the interior of the building. So you won't see any site plans or anything like that because the parking will remain exactly the same. Access, everything will remain all the same. All the trees are staying as is. So the only image I have to share tonight is the floor plan. They're proposing to occupy essentially about half the building, maybe a little more than half, for a new dental clinic. They do, as you'll see on the floor plan, they have essentially the service areas where the technicians and the dentist will perform maintenance for teeth and other type of oral procedures. They have a sterilization area, their reception area, and a waiting room, along with the mechanical areas. So everything you'd typically need for a dentist clinic. This is really all I have to share because it's all interior to the building. So with that, there was not any issues seen by staff, so we do recommend approval of the conditional use permit for a dental clinic to be located at 2105 143rd Street West, with the only condition being that they have to pull a sign permit for any signage.
Wow, that was brief. Nice.
Yeah, I was really hoping for 30 seconds or less on that presentation.
Yeah. Again, a great use. I'm familiar with the building, a great use for it and a nice plan. But commissioners, any questions for
I think we need to make sure the exterior signage needs a permit because they're gonna need a sign out there.
Yeah,
You don't see that building unless you know it's there.
right, yeah. Seeing no further questions, we're going to open this up for a public hearing at 6:55. And there is nobody in the council chambers except us. Is there anybody online or on the phone? There is nobody online or on the phone. I'm going to close the public hearing also at 6:55. And we'll move it to questions or discussions from the commission or a motion. Any commissioners have any further questions or comments? Or motions? Commissioner Braddock?
Looks pretty straightforward to me. I motion that the planning commission recommend the city council approval of the CUP for a dental clinic to be located at 2105 143rd Street West, subject to the exterior signage permit, so if they choose.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Item 5 on our agenda are updates. Commissioners, do you have any updates? No updates from the commissioners? Any updates from staff?
Yeah, your next meeting is currently scheduled for March 25th. We do have a couple items tentatively on that agenda. Those 2 billboard items that we tabled at the last meeting, those are tentatively scheduled to come forward at your next meeting. So stay tuned. We'll see if those end up going through then, but for now, plan on that meeting happening.
Thank you very much. No further updates, then the last item on our agenda is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Timmerman. Second?
I just want to stay here.
I know, we don't get to spend enough time together.
I'll make a second.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.